right, welcome to this new series, which is the season 2 of Master Strokes, presented by IBM in association with Business World, where we get the sectoral leaders to talk about what is happening in the tech space. Today, our focus is on the insurance industry that is witnessing a new unleashing of opportunities with the use of tech and coming of Gen AI. So we have two industry thought leaders with us. I have Mr. Suhail Ghai. He is the Chief Digital and Information Officer at Max Life Insurance. Thank you, Suhail, for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
I also have Ms. Reena Khimani. She's the leadership from the leadership team of financial services at IBM, and her focus is on insurance. Thank you, Reena, for joining us on
Thank
this.
you for having me.
Suhail, let me begin with you. A lot is happening in the insurance tech space. Industry is particularly trying to transform, is getting transformed with the coming of new technology. In that mix, how is the customer facing part of the business shaping up? Also, the regulatory framework is important here because that also defines what tech are you using. Give me a sense of what are the top industry drivers and technology enablers that you are focused on in this context.
I think this is a pretty transformation time for the insurance as a sector. What we are seeing from all sides, be it the customer, be it the seller, be it the market ecosystem, as well as the regulator. I think this industry is going through a massive transformation. Some of the few things, I think the way insurance is being bought and sold is changing. It is no longer a traditional model of an agent selling or somebody walking into a branch. There are many more alternate models, like you're looking at insurtech partnerships, you're looking at embedded insurance, you're also looking at that D2C journeys. So the way the insurance is being bought and sold is being changed. It's changing. Second big one is the customers are now much more open. They see a consumer grade experience when they deal with the Flipkarts and Amazons of the world. And therefore, their way they want to interact with an insurance provider is also changing. Lot more openness to DIY journeys, lot more openness to bots, to WhatsApp as a channel. So that consumer grade experience is also shaping the way customers are now interacting with the insurance companies. I think third big change is about the whole India stack. As India is building this stack of right from UPI to account aggregator to DigiLockers to all this now Abha coming in. There's a lot more information available about the people which is there, and based on the customer's consent, you can really use them to understand your customer better, to also make a journey much more seamless. I think another one is that, as I think we all know about AI, ML, generative AI, I think with all these things, they are able to create content, understand customer better, and also service customer in a more seamless way. I think that is also changing. Lastly, with the regulator, much more openness today, ability for agility to launch new products. There are many more avenues of use and file, right? Which is helping you bring agility to your launches, and so your ability to manifest and make sure that you're able to meet the demands of your customers in an agile way. I think overall a massive transformation.
Absolutely. I think the points that you have raised shows that there's a lot underway in this industry. Reena, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I actually agree with Sohail. I think he summarized it quite well. I just want to make one small point, is that insurance as an industry has been in a state of evolution for over a decade now. When the distribution channels started to expand merely from an agency workforce to bank assurance, etc. So from the perspective of an evolution, insurance as an industry has continuously needed to innovate and evolve. There have been various factors which have triggered this innovation, most recently being the pandemic, because that has also triggered a sense of innovation in the insurers, in the way they are selling, in the way they are designing their products, and in the way the customers are now seeing insurance. All of that has undergone a tremendous change in the recent past, and that has also fostered a degree of acceleration of innovation. And in the middle of all of this is digitization, is what I would say. Because digital has formed the core of a lot of this innovation, and every technology imperative that we are seeing right now is harboring around what digitization brings to the fore. So, from the perspective of the drivers, I completely agree with what Sohail has mentioned. But from the perspective of a technology imperative, yes, Gen AI, and the ML models that we have, and cybersecurity, all of them are harboring around the digitization which has come to the forefront of the insurance industry.
Absolutely. I think so much talk around chat GPT coming in and the new technology. So, well, in this market, somewhere it's becoming cluttered. And to differentiate your offering from the rest, of course, the tech plays a huge part here. Give me a sense of when it comes to technology areas, do you feel you need to accelerate to stay ahead and maintain? And how do you do that?
I think absolutely, as you said, and as Hima said, technology is really shaping the way this industry is growing. And as we saw this in different industries like banking, technology can be a major enabler as you scale up and then you increase your penetration. Now, what we see is that first, a very big thing which we all are investing in is how do you are able to harness more data. Now, leveraging both the power of cloud and data to me is an extended part of cloud. How can you know more about your customer? How can you mine that information and use that information back in your seamless digital journeys? So right from the time, using some of those AI/ML models to know more about the customer, using the ecosystem partnerships, whether it's CKYC, EKYC, DigiLocker, to enable that you know your customer, you know about his financial position, you can be able to give him a seamless experience, something which is like a consumer get experience where he fills the form and the policy is issued instantaneously. And you still manage the risk in an intelligent way.
Yeah.
I think this is one. Second is that a lot of insurance systems were earlier about legacy systems, where you talked about hours and days for issuance. I think as the consumer expects more and instant gratification, and that's the power of digital, is also how do you bring agility to those systems. We have seen as we are embracing cloud in a large way, we are moving a lot of our legacy platforms to cloud, also re-architecting and re-transforming them. Ability today, we are able to issue many policies in the matter of minutes. 50% of our policies in certain channels are instant issuance, as against something which would take us hours or days earlier. Thirdly, I think the big change is about the experience part of it. As I said earlier, now it is no longer about people calling your helpline or calling a call center. Today, everybody is comfortably, easily dealing with a WhatsApp bot. And that is where you want to do a journey. You want to be able to make a payment natively without having to go to your net banking account or even opening a different app. And I think these consumer get experiences with technology, and as lastly, as we said, with Gen AI, what is happening is that your ability to understand your customer's intent better and respond, in a very seamless way, to make the DIY journeys more personalized, more enriched. That is also, is in the areas we will continue to work on to make the whole experience more consumer grade, more seamless, and again, much more, and with the proper risk assessment.
No, absolutely. I think it is a very valid point, which is very relatable here. For example, bots, we are talking about how brands are using bots. I'll also come to you for the same response. But bots somewhere cannot contextualize the human needs at times, right? But the hope is Gen AI, that's gonna change things because the bot in its current state is slightly needs more intelligence at the moment. What are you doing on that front, and what do you think Gen AI can do to automation? Are you working in your digital transformation journey strategy on that front? What do we see unleashing on that part?
I think, as you rightly said, Gen AI will probably move out of the interaction from a rule-based interaction to a more contextual interaction, and therefore we identified 2 or 3 large areas. I think one is customer service, other is underwriting, and third is enabler or a kind of digital twin for your salesperson. I think 2 or 3 areas we have identified where a generative AI has an immediate use case. So the way we're looking at is how can we supplement our current boss strategy with the generative AI. Second, as we understand customer better, as you rightly said, not all questions can be answered by a bot. Therefore, how do you build an omni-channel strategy where, like, for example, using AI, you can look at the customer's sentiment, and when do you actually hand over to a real human being to support the customer. And I think these building a seamless multi-touch point omni-channel strategy is a key part of you trying to propagate more of these DIY tools.
Right. Reena, from your standpoint, what is happening in this space? Also, I was reading that now that the knowledge generation that will happen in the tech space, it will be directed more bot friendly than human friendly, because bots will be the
They'll
interface.
be reading it,
Yeah.
yes.
So, what are the broader things happening, and what solutions are being implemented for brands from that standpoint?
So you see, obviously, the solutions, technology is all pervasive to whatever the driver be, like I said. Now, what we have right now is data. Data is there at the thick and thin of this all. And then we have the AI models. Now, Gen AI, which is basically a since ChatGPT's introduction into the market, Gen AI has gained a lot of prevalence. So, from the perspective of technology trends, Gen AI is definitely something which is going to gain a lot of prominence. There will be a lot, and it is becoming a value enabler for organizations rather than simply a solution provider, right? What Gen AI is really doing is helping organizations, and like Sohail said, it's helping them take decisions in terms of where the handoff from a bot to a person should be. So you're basically using technology to determine what process step must you take next, right? You're basically automating your entire process, keeping technology at the forefront. Now, when you do that, what you also get is, and we are also in the era of where we are moving to hybrid cloud scenario, where all the organizations, when they are reducing their technical debt, they are basically moving to the cloud, and they're not just investing in one ISV or one hyperscaler. There's a multi-cloud scenario that they are bringing in. And with that does come the threat which is associated to any digital asset, right? Which is associated to any ecosystem we may be a part of. So cybersecurity is gaining a lot of prominence in this. So from the perspective of what is happening in the technical area, in the technology area, Gen AI, digitalization, owning the customer journeys that we are building to basically hold and persist the customer for myself, and also the security angle associated to it because of all the PII that I'm, custodian of as an insurer, and all the information of the customer that I'm basically keeping with myself. I need to protect that information, and I need to protect the assets as an insurer that I am developing, the IP that I'm developing. So security is also playing a very strong role in the industry at this point in time.
Yes, since you touched upon this, which is a very critical part of this conversation, let me come to you, Sohail, with this. The threat of cyber attacks, cyber security breaches has even become more advanced with AI coming in. Of course, that threat will also advance. As an industry leader in this space, what are your big concerns concerning AI, and what is being done to tackle those emerging threats?
I think, as we say, insurance is a business of trust, and and our customers trust us with their money, with their information, and therefore it becomes paramount importance for any insurer to really take this as center stage of the entire the customer strategy. So, way we today look at it, as you rightly said, with the AI coming in, with more intelligence coming in, even the security threats are rising. Now, two or three big areas where we are working on. One is the whole thing about threat intelligence. How are you able to put in an ecosystem which is not to internal tools, market market studies, subscription to a lot of other services. You're able to build a threat perception, and you're able to figure out what are the real threats which you have, and then take a corresponding action. Second things about, as Reena said, is about data. Now you have a lot of confidential data about your customer. So the entire thing about how do you protect this data, how do you ensure the data is not leaked, who has access to this data, and how is the data secured, whether it's in motion, whether it's at rest, becomes very, very important. I think the third big area is that we have all put a lot of efficacy, a lot of tools over a period of time. The big challenge is how do you figure out the efficacy of these tools? So whether and how do you make sure you whether you do bug bounties, whether you do penetration testing, whether you're doing a third-party black box testing, you should be able to really figure out what are the chinks in your system and proactively fix them. And lastly, the biggest thing is that in today's world is response to a security incident. I think that's very important. While you do everything possible to protect from a security incident, Then you say your ability to respond. So how does your security operations center respond? How can you make sure that you can isolate yourself, insulate yourself when such issues occur? I think that is also a big area of where we are investing in.
And there is no insurance against threats right now, right? This can be a market. I'm just
Yes.
kidding. Reena, give me a perspective of the tech side when it comes to complexity of cyber threats. They are becoming more complex day by day.
Very complex, yes.
One is overall from a brand standpoint, and then specifically for the insurance sector, what is being done when it comes to securing them from cyber attacks?
Sure. So, Rohil, so far the objective of security for any financial services company, whether that be an insurer, whether that be a bank, is basically to protect the assets that we have, to protect the data center, to protect the servers that we have within the data center, and by virtue of that, whatever resides in that server, whether that is data for customers, whether that is workforce data, anything that may be. We have moved from that period to now where we are really talking about, can I anticipate a threat? Can I anticipate what could potentially be a disaster for me? Whether that is a data breach or whether that is anything else, whether that is something which is happening in the geopolitical stage somewhere else, can I bring that insight into my ecosystem and be able to prevent any particular form of leakage or any particular disaster that may befall me in the future? And that is exactly what we are doing in terms of technology, which is also what Sohail alluded to, which is basically threat prevention. Can I anticipate threat and can I do some proactive measure? Can I take a proactive measure to dissipate address that threat correctly? Also, one very important factor of threat or for security is that while this is all towards the assets I have as an organization, but what is also important is the workforce that is there for me, because those are also assets. And specifically in the insurance industry, where you have distribution channels, where you may not have everybody on the payroll of the organization, but you do have you've given them the access to your systems, the stakeholders, the agents particularly. Now, what is that I can do to ensure that if there is somebody who's entering my ecosystem or exiting my ecosystem, I am surely securing their entry and exit. And this is something which is known as zero trust framework, which we talk about, wherein the moment you give access to somebody to your systems, and tomorrow if they decide to leave your system, there is a clean exit. There is no particular threat looming for them also to be able to access your system, so that an unforeseen incident can take place. So from a security perspective, and data, obviously we are masking and encrypting data has already been talked about, but from the perspective of preventing threat is what is taking forefront rather than responding to threats going forward.
I think I would only like to add one thing which she said, and probably that's very important, is the fact that today you are connected ecosystems. You are no longer working in isolation. Typically in insurance organizations, they sell through multiple banks, brokers, agents, and therefore many of the systems are very deeply integrated to your system. So now the threat is much wider than your own ecosystem, and therefore your ability to actually create some of the zero trust frameworks, make sure there are enough impediments or controls if there is any part of the ecosystem is actually compromised, to make sure your data is always safe, and that becomes very, very important.
Just for my understanding, how often does these audits happen on the threat perception?
See, now actually we are almost in a world of continuous audit. So the way we have done this is that today, whenever we build any new code using DevSecOps, today security is integrated into your new code. Whenever you make any change to any part of your stack, security is integrated. If it is not secure, it will not get into production. Secondly, you also have a continuous method of whether you do VAPTs, you do black box testing, there are cyclical controls. You are always at it. You use third parties, you use ethical hackers, you use bug bounties where you tell your ecosystem to find flaws. But the fundamental is that there is no one person who knows it all. How do you leverage the ecosystem? It's a continuous improvement. There is no goalpost. As you progress with the technology, even the threat progresses. And therefore, this is a continuous thing. So with most of your partners, you will keep on, while you have a basic cadence of certain things, quarterly, half yearly, yearly audits, But many of these things are a continuous affair and it's built into your SDLC or your software delivery cycle.
And just one more point, if I can add over here. Earlier, it was a very siloed activity, defining a security policy for a company and defining or building your application landscape for the organization. Now, there is no choice but to have them work in tandem. Now, the strategies must be aligned. Now, a CTO will not work independently of a CISO because it is,
Yes,
such,
all
like you
right.
said, it's such an integrated ecosystem that we are working with. So, you have to have these synergies built together. And that has become very imperative now.
Absolutely. So, from here on, if you look at the role of technology partners, Suhail, tell me what will drive the success for a continuous transformation journey? What are the factors that will define that journey with your technology partners?
I think first of all, for a traditional insurance company like us, we technology partners are a massive part of our strategy. They bring in various kinds of value addition to us, right from as we spoke about working with large players like IBM's, Microsoft's, and Oracle's of the world. These are some of the best platforms we build our systems on, and more resilient and secure platforms are because of these organizations. Second, we work with a lot of IT services organizations who help build agility into our delivery model, can help us bring flexible delivery models, help us scale up. Third, security is one area where we work with a lot of players, some new age players, some established players. But this is a very evolving scenario. And fourthly, I think the big thing is now with coming of AI data. This is another area. We again work with a lot of technology players, not one to organize our data better, understand our customer insights from it, but also infuse the data. So today we work with the Googles, Facebooks of the world, who also know a lot about our customer. And how can we get this all together, understand the customer better, and hopefully have a great proposition for the customer.
Right. Since we are at data, I had a counterpoint before I ask you the same question. Data privacy, of course, the security is also in a larger sense, but on that side, what is being inbuilt in the tech offering to ensure the what do you call data privacy remains? Is that a big conversation at the moment? I mean, of course, the regulator is still trying to get more, kind of things woven around it. But what is happening on the front of data privacy?
I think, as I said, data privacy, data security is one of the key pillars of entire digital strategy for us. And therefore, right from the time of making sure that you have an explicit customer consent, anytime you use customer data, to the point that wherever you store customer data, it is stored with minimum places it is stored. If it is stored, it is well encrypted. The accesses need to have access. It is reviewed periodically. Who has access to it? The people who have access to it, you have the logs about them, right? You are making sure at any point of time it is not available in the clear text format. Then you are also going back and seeing this, that in the entire chain, whosoever using data, calling customers, they only see scrambled data. They don't actually see the customer data. So the entire chain, when the data comes in, resides, who uses it, how it is stored, to the even people who interact with the customer something don't have the access to the data. And I think making that chain, it's an area we continue to work on, we continue to improve. And I think, and the challenge is this, that in insurance industry where you have heterogeneous systems, you don't have a homogeneous system, this becomes even bigger challenge. And also many times, as she said, your data is not just with you, it's with your partners. And they may not be your employees. So it becomes even more challenging to make sure that it is in a format that you can review the entire chain and ensure there is no leakage point. So this is obviously an area which we continue to work on and improve.
And it is an evolution. It's not something that has a defined solution in place. I hope you'd agree, but it's something that is going to, because the importance of protecting data has become even more apparent in the past few years. And therefore, the steps to keep protecting it will continue to evolve also.
Absolutely. So my earlier question, where I asked about the partnership with, technology partnership, how do they do it? When you engage with clients, or rather collaborate with them, so what is the model of engagement that you follow? Because there must be a lot of to and fro and so many
Yeah.
layers of conversations.
Yeah.
How does it pan out?
I'm glad you said collaborate after you said engage, because that is one of the key operating models that we have. So, technology providers are no longer just service providers, which used to be the legacy way somebody would work for a client. There would be a problem that they'd be asked to solve. If I had an offering, I'd go and present that offering and try to solve the problem for my client. Now it has become more, again, it's become more of an evolutionary process, because if I find that there is a problem statement in the industry, and if I have a corresponding offering in my organization, can I contextualize it to basically attune to the client I'm currently in talk to? Can I strategize with them to determine what is going to be the next driver for this particular industry in this particular segment in the future? Can I co-create with them? Can I build with them, take some risk together with them? So far, the way technology providers are changing now are moving from a service provider to a collaborator. Like, you're talking to them about what the future might be, what the organization's vision might be, and how can the both of your organization, the client organization and the technology provider organization, collectively fulfill that vision for you. What are the risks that the client organization can carry and that you can carry along with them, so that the outcome is a successful, fruitful one for the both of you? So we are not just providing solutions, we are devising solutions, strategizing solutions collectively. That's how I see the role of a technology provider now for most of the organizations that we work for.
I think if I can add, we have many examples of, as I said, like we actually collaborate with a leading fintech to create a router, a payment router for us, which allows us to use multiple gateways, and depending on success, and best success can help us route and make the most efficiency of our payments. We've also taken models where we're working with a global player of trying to figure out, and this is all collaborating on a product where we can just click a picture and you can know the biomarkers, and you don't have to do a medical test of a prospect. And similarly, many areas on underwriting, on customer service, where we are actively working with the ecosystem, both emerging ecosystem and established players, and co-creating products, and also at the time enriching their proposition with context to the business, with data, to make the product better.
Right. So in terms of evolution of the insurance sector, which is still not heavily, penetrated, there is a lot of lots to be done here. What are the bigger pain points currently in the Indian market, and how is tech kind of going to address it, just to understand it better?
I think there is a lot of, as you rightly said, insurance is still, the penetration is very low in India as compared to anybody else globally, even as compared to some of the Asian markets. Now, if you look at it, one of the bigger pain points was accessibility and affordability. I think this is one area working with the regulator now. There are a couple of initiatives like Bima Sugam, Bima Vistar, where with the regulators bringing the entire industry together. So how can you create an affordable, accessible point to the masses in general, and which is across the country, not just in the big cities with affluent population. I think that is one. I think second, lot to see was about the availability of information. So a lot of this country is self-employed. There are hardly 4-5% of people who will actually have a valid income tax return. Now, how do you assess these people better? Whereas we don't have a digitized records like a HIPAA, which is in US. So how do you know your customers better? And therefore, what drives is that because of this, your friction increases and your cost of acquisition increases. Now, with the India stack coming in, abilities coming in, account aggregator, GST data coming in, you can now start knowing much more about your customers. Now, with the government projects like ABHA, which is the central product on healthcare coming in, these are financial bureaus coming in. Now you can understand your customers better. You don't need to go to the whole hog, and therefore, one of the big things enablers is that how do you become more seamless into selling insurance as a process. I think that is one area we are working on. Second, affordable accessibility, and I think third is about about how does a customer interact with you. Now, typically, you can't have branches everywhere. As customers, as the proliferation of mobile phones are coming in, customers become more digital savvy. Their ability to do a DIY transaction or work through a simple WhatsApp also enables penetration better. I think these are some of the challenges which we all are working this through. And lastly, was I will still point out one was in regulation. I think where the regulator is working very proactively that how can it open the market more, where insurance can offer more products at a more faster pace to the customers.
The regulator is a collaborator.
Absolutely, there is a collaboration.
That's great news. So I just, Reena, want to add a point here. The Indian market is very complex, linguistic diversity and geographical, I mean, it changes every 5-6 kilometers. In this, building a tech stack for a company that has a pan-India presence or, I mean, how does the tech side deal with such complex situations?
The technology is all pervasive, like I said. I mean, the technology will work the way you expect it to work. What we are basically doing is, and now we are actually moving into a platform-oriented area. So basically, you build an ecosystem. The ecosystem goes to the last mile. So what you do is you make a platform which is enabled to plug into the ecosystem, whether that be a PMJ or like a Bima Yojana, whatever that be, and we are all operating on APIs nowadays. So we are building a marketplace of APIs. So what you're really doing is you're enabling. And like I said, it's not anymore a point-to-point solution that a technology provider is providing. It's basically an enablement that we are providing as platforms. And you basically build your marketplace on that platform and you reach the last mile.
Right. So, so you have the FMCG's close experience, and when you come to this side of the industry, which has its own way of functioning, what are the big learnings from FMCG that you are trying to implement here? The big learnings from FMCG that you are trying to, make work on this side. Are there any, and what are they, if at all?
So, absolutely right. There are, I think every industry has its learnings, has their curve where you are more mature than others. I think one big area, as Rima just said, was all about platform. I think what FMCG does very well is they have built a lot of technology on a very sound platform. And that has helped them to then innovate faster and build a more resilient this thing. I think BFSI was more a collection of fragmented ecosystems. I think this is one area which you're bringing from FMCG, which you can bring back in this industry and help it become more resilient and more agile. The second big one is what I think for me personally was distribution. Having worked in FMCG, I think distribution is very heavily tech. So tech enables execution in FMCG. So right from 10 years ago, looking at when there was no 4G or GPRS, to looking at tracking of salesmen, to looking at the IoT, how you are able to use technology to drive sales execution and rigor. I think BFSI was largely prevalent on relationships. And I think as now companies are realizing becoming larger to manage a large diverse tech, distribution force, I think this is one area to how digitalization can help bring rigor into the force where I think FMCG does a very good job. I think lastly it's about data. How can data help trigger? I think FMCG last 5-6 years ago, a lot of this thing taking next best action, what will sell in what outlet, looking at customer demographics and suggesting the order in the hand of a rep. I think this is happening. I think this is something which probably we can bring back to, because this is a very need-based selling. Insurance actually need-based selling. And if you can bring that intelligence back, personalization, contextual, and to the customer, you can actually make a much better proposition for the customer. I think these 2 or 3 things can actually, and I think insurance companies are doing this now.
And also, as a leading company, I think the onus is also to grow the ecosystem, not just the competition. I think these big companies are working on that. Let me have a couple of lighter questions, Sohail. I have for you. If you had to choose something outside of technology, what would have been your dream profession?
A serious one, I think I would love to teach technology. If I get a chance, it's something I want to do. More frivolous one, I would love to be I can't with my size drive a Formula 1, but I'd love to be a Formula 1 commentator.
Wow.
I think that's my passion and I would love to do that.
Wonderful.
Commenter,
wonderful.
you said, or
yes.
So we are, you pointed out still not even at the cusp of what this sector can unleash and the potential it has. Of course, a lot has to do with awareness, and as tech becomes more, pervasive, and it's very easy to go and do it yourself. Where do you see the uh, future of insurance in India, if I say next 3 to 5 years? Where do we stand, and what would be your strategy, to kind of leverage the kind of leadership position that you have? What is being done on that front, and where will the sector be in next 3 to 5 years?
I think, as we all said, insurance is still a very underpenetrated sector in the country. One big thing is about awareness. I think, as an organization, we have partnered with the entire industry, with the platforms like IPQ, where we are trying to drive awareness of insurance in the masses, right? A lot of this country, even who is insured, is very underinsured. So typically, you should be insured, they say at least 10 to 11 times your annual salary, and therefore, but we will see that most of the people are only insured up to a point where they require for the tax purposes. So I think building awareness is one big area which will probably expand and move more people to come to take insurance to protect themselves. I think second big thing is ecosystems. We have to really change the way we distribute the product. Like, as I told you, with the regulator, you're trying to go to the masses, which today are not insured. That is one angle. Second is, how do you penetrate better? So today, a lot of customers do not have protection. Protection percentage is still very low, pure protection, right? How do you increase that? Third is that there are new products coming in. Now you're talking about annuities. As you're looking at, as the country's demographic profile is changing, more people are going from being young to middle aged. So what will happen is that there are different needs which will come through, and therefore the product portfolio which started as traditional products, then came in saving products with emphasis on protection, and now on annuity. You are trying to cover a larger segment on the needs of the customer across his life cycle. And therefore what I see this as is that emerging ecosystem play. I think both the sectors opening up, there are new players coming in. I think that players will further drive the awareness. That will also mean much more, and will also push even traditional insurers to become much more digital, not just digital means of selling, digital also way the services are delivered. And finally, I see insurance also being sold as a portfolio, and not just as a standalone product. It is a part of your rather financial portfolio, how you are secure, how you're looking a long term, and therefore more embedded selling, more selling across along with other products. I think composite selling. I think that will also be a part of the of how we look at the industry in future.
Reena, would you like to add what do you see for the insurance industry?
Yeah, I'll add it from a technology perspective. I think what I feel will be the drivers of the insurance industry in the next 3 5 years. We've already begun to see prediction, security, sustainability. Prediction in terms of the AIs of the world, the Gen AIs of the world, that we are only now beginning, because these are emerging technologies for us, that we are now beginning to use, and we don't yet know the scale of how much we can use them, but obviously the use cases are there in the market which are currently being proven. The security aspect of it that we spoke about, because as and when the technology becomes even more deep, it becomes even more embedded into everything that we do, the threats loom. So the security also continues to evolve. And sustainability, because at this point in time, I don't think that any industry can be devoid of the environmental factors that are plaguing. And there is going to be a regulation, if it's not already here right now, for the insurance industry particularly. But over the next couple of years, there is going to be a great focus on sustainability, and it would bode well for the insurers to begin work on that now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Suhail, and thank you, Reena, for giving us a detailed overview and insights into the insurance sector, which is, of course, going to go up, and the tech players have a huge role to play, and also sharing your thoughts on the data security part, the cyber threats that are going to get advanced, and how Gen AI is going to change and, of course, unleash a new era for the sector, if I may call so. So that was it for our first episode of the season 2 of Masterstroke, which is a series brought together by BW Business World and IBM. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.